right, welcome back to Wither and Bloom Studios for Chapter 2 of Session 1 of Daggerheart at Amakora. When we left off, our party members had just accepted a position with Valen Darluden to investigate something he believes has been framed for. He intends to pay them well to get information that will hopefully get him off the hook in the accusation that he blew up his building. So, where are we at?
We are at the lab.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so you traversed your way north across Amakora, and you wound up at the lab, or at least what Valen Darluden has said is his sort of false lab.
Yes.
In the Tinkerer's district of Amakora. Yes. So, yeah, the scene is still pretty severe. They haven't done much because they've been doing an investigation. And so there is a decent size rope that has been dyed a bright orange color that has been strung across the area. There is debris from the explosion that extends out almost 40 feet in every direction, right? It was a pretty decent explosion. The wood of 3 buildings is splintered, piled, burned, charred. In some cases, you can still smell all the sort of burned wood all around you. What do you want to do? Let's talk about how we're going to work this out.
Is there a particular smell to this aftermath? Like anything peculiar? Or just smells like regular burnt stuff?
Well, a majority of it, the buildings are made of wood primarily, but there is also a bit of a smell of grease. You know, there was a mechanical element to some of the stuff that burned, and so there's an oily type smell to it.
Is there like a doorway we're entering, or is it like just like completely leveled?
Well, there is a sort of portion of the building that's still standing. The building blew outward, and so the back of the building still stands, and you can see its sort of blown open shell. You can see where the first and second floor actually are sort of like hanging from, their section. The second floor actually hangs on a slight angle. It looks like it would be treacherous to be up there.
Okay.
You can sort of even see the remains of what looked like a makeshift small bedroom, because there's sort of like what appear to be bed sheets hanging right off the edge of what's exposed.
Now, us entering this area, is it like a one point of entry, or is anybody allowed to just kind of traverse underneath the lined off area?
Well, the rope seems to suggest to sort of stay out. It's a dangerous place, but it's not like there are guards around that are sort of stopping you from going in. So,
first off, hood's going up.
Okay.
Of my cloak.
Okay.
And I would like to enter the standing part of the building.
Yes.
I'm going to go in that area.
Okay. It's actually very easy to get into because it has been blown wide open.
Yeah.
So there are 3 buildings. There's obviously a center one and then one that flanks each. Darluden's building was the one in the middle. It looked as if there used to be a fairly large set of double doors that opened out on the front. And then next to those 2 double doors was a smaller, more slender door that entered. That slender door, from what you can ascertain, was, because the frame is still there, right? Opened in, there was a flight of stairs that went straight up, and then an opening into what appeared to be a larger open area on the first floor.
Is the immediate ceiling above us, is that still intact? Is it sort of caved in?
So a lot of it has been blown open. So in the front portion of the building, the ceiling above you is gone, revealing the second floor. That's where I was mentioning you can see this sort of makeshift bedroom there.
Right.
So you can see right up into the space above you.
Okay.
Can we find is there a distinct point of explosion?
That's a great question. Why don't you roll an instinct check for me on that? Would that be instinct? Hold on a minute.
I feel
Yeah,
so.
that's going to be instinct.
Yeah, I mean, either way.
You got this.
Knowledge or instinct's going to be okay. Well, it is with hope. It's a 17 with hope.
A 17
Nice.
with hope. Great. So you're sort of poking around in space a little bit, and you're looking up, you're looking at the ceiling, and while the two of you are kind of like looking at whether the ceiling is intact, you're kind of getting the lay of the land, you're looking at the debris and how it's laying there and some of the charring patterns that are there. And there's something that really sticks out to you that becomes pretty evident. It almost looks as if the explosion happened either right at the door or just outside the door. Because a lot of the spray from this seems to radiate out from a central point. And that central point seems to be right along what would have been the foundational wall
So
of the
this is
front
on
of
the
the house.
first floor.
This is on the first floor, yes.
So right on either side of the door, you're saying?
Yeah.
Would have been the explosion.
Yeah.
Okay. So probably on the inside because pieces were exploding outward
Outward.
for 40 feet.
And it was probably a rushed job if they're going to just go right inside, open the front door,
Drop
place it
it.
in, and then go.
Yes. And would the shape of the ceiling confirm that? Are things splintering upwards?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So there's a lot of debris that pushes
So
up. So it
most-
definitely happened below.
And the upper levels are completely charred? Gone?
So it appears as if the blast went up and
Right.
pushed up through the ceiling. A lot of the second floor, even though it is exposed, remained. There was some burning and some charring, but
Right.
then above that, there appears to be an attic level and a roof line, and those appear to be still somewhat intact. The
Still
glass is broken up there, but other than that,
Okay. Does there appear to be any residue laying around from the explosion?
Sure.
Could I take a few samples of that?
Yeah. How would you like to grab a hold of those?
I'd like to take a little piece of cloth, like clean cloth or cotton, and just scrape up as much as I can.
Okay, and
into
you're
this.
scraping this off of the ground, off of the wood. Like, where are you pulling it from?
Wherever there seems to be like a condensed amount of residue, like whatever would be a viable sample.
I mean, one thing you've recognized as you've walked into this section is the cobblestones of the street tend
Right.
to have a black filth about them because
Right.
this area just is much more industrial in
Right.
nature. So you pull some off of some of the wood,
Right.
which if there is black or residue on there, it probably would have been from the actual explosion rather than from other events.
Right.
You're able to blacken your cloth that you're sort of wiping up with rather efficiently. There's a fair amount of the silt and soot on it.
While I'm here, while these two are doing this thing, I would like to. I have certain functional abilities that I can cast without, I'd say, using. Kind of like ones that don't require a lot of like metal consumption, I'd say, like Cosmere or something.
So can we, let's kind of revisit how you have your powers. Can we talk about that really quickly?
Yeah, so I am a fleece addict, which is one of the drugs inside of the city. So many of my larger combat-based abilities require me to use fleece and kind of channel the fleece itself like through me and shoot that out in a sense. But there are, with me going to the school within the city to learn about my powers and harness them, I have abilities outside of combat that I'm able to cast just from my innate previous usage.
Okay. Good. So I'm sorry. Let's go back to what it was you had intended to do.
So I'm going to kind of like rub my eyes a little bit, and as I do, they kind of light up a little bit more orange than they were blue.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to cast Reveal, which
Okay.
is if there's anything hidden. If there's anything hidden within close range, it is revealed.
Would that be? I'm just curious. Hidden makes me think intention, right? So if something's hidden intentionally by someone trying to hide a thing, that would be what this is attempting to reveal.
In a sense, I mean, let's say maybe something's hiding behind some object, or there's something laying under something. I feel like it would reveal that as well.
Okay, so yeah, I guess I get your point.
Yeah.
Where a lot has been sort of blown out into a space, and maybe something of significance is
under debris.
inadvertently under debris, thus hiding. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yes. So, How would you envision it being revealed to you if
So-
the spell is unfolding?
So it's interesting, right? I believe like as I like rub my eyes and channel my fleece energy up to my opticals, my vision becomes a little bit like blue. There's a blue hue over everything, but the hidden objects are revealed in orange. They kind of stand out amongst the background.
Okay. So as the sort of landscape around you and all the boards begin to turn blue,
Yeah.
you do notice a smattering across the ground of what almost appear to be orange shards. Like no one singular object stands out, but there appears to be a pattern of shards, and they almost have a similar trajectory and directionality of all of the debris that's actually here.
I love you. I was literally looking. I was literally writing. I was like, "That's what I was gonna check for next."
I'm going to kind of like peer through and inspect these shards related to my group. There seems to be some sort of shard residue from the explosion itself, kind of scattered amongst the entire perimeter. Here, check it out. I'm going to
Terrific.
inspect one on my own as well.
Doesn't seem to make up the match of the building.
It seems to come from a different source, some
Right.
sort of different element or something. Todd, can I get a read on this? These shards?
Yeah, well, they're definitely metallic in nature, and as you pick up several of them and hold them in your hand, you notice that they appear to be of what was once a sort of larger vessel or substance that has been broken. So as you look at the edges, they almost appear, metallic edges broken or ripped apart take a great force, number one. And so you're noticing that the metal these were made of, though, appears to have been cast rather than sort of forged. So because it has a textural quality to the edges, almost like cast iron would, there's obvious break points. You're not able to find any that fit perfectly together,
Yeah.
but they all do seem to be related.
That's a piece of evidence number 2.
I would like to find the largest piece of the shrapnel possible, and in analyzing the concavity of it, make a gauge of how large it would be.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And yes, could I make a roll for that?
You could make a roll for that, yes.
Okay.
That's going to be an instinct
Oh wait,
roll.
those were d20s.
2d20 is going to get you
We
a
don't
pretty good
use
number.
them
Yeah.
anymore.
I rolled a 38.
They're so last year, dude.
Old habits die hard, I guess. All right.
Hey, some abilities still use a d20.
I still use a d12.
Oh, that is a 12 with hope.
A 12 with hope? So, one of the things you're really excited about is the fact that you are able to ascertain that the general volume of this thing, just based on curvature, the angle of the break in certain spots and how those things line up, this thing looks like it would have been about the size of a 8-inch sphere.
Okay.
Okay, so, roughly 6 to 8 inches in diameter approximately. The number of shards that you found aren't nearly enough to complete that 8-inch sphere, but that's your basic guess.
Can I
Now-
recall? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Can I recall information on where someone would be able to cast this sort of object in the city?
Not specifically, because the city is filled with places like this, right? So this does not necessarily stand out because this is what the city's about,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of a miracle that if you hadn't cast that spell, these shards would not have appeared out of the ordinary to you, because this stuff is everywhere.
Yeah, it's the same thing as finding your thing on the ground that you picked up. It's
Right.
just like all over the place.
If my math serves me correctly, it's from like an 8-inch sphere, which is about 201 cubic inches.
You know you can fit
Wait.
in there.
No, it's not. Hold on.
Bomb components.
4/3, 8.
Yes. That's 2 pieces of evidence that come to the conclusion that
Are
Vermin
you doing
did not know
the
what was
cubic footage or space of this thing?
Yes, I am.
happening. Todd, with my blue vision, I want to look outside and see if if anybody's kind of noticing that we're peeking around, if there's anybody, observing outside.
You kind of have been probably glancing over your shoulder a fair bit, knowing that you went underneath this very obvious rope. There really isn't anybody right now. This section of the town is relatively quiet. You hear a lot of clatter. You hear a lot of activity within the various workshops. But there's not too many people walking. It's not like other areas of town where there are markets and people going about business.
Yeah.
So this would be 2,145 cubic inches of explosive material.
Interesting.
I mean, now, an 8-inch diameter or radius?
8-inch diameter sphere.
Oh, okay.
Gotta
Then it's
redo
gonna
the
be
math.
a bit less than that.
I mean, that's,
Can you imagine a
radius.
16-inch radius
Yeah.
I mean,
Anyway.
this had to have been a powerful component to blow this building sky high.
Yes.
With my background, would I ever call if there is a sort of component in the city that would be able to create this sort of large explosion within that little bit of metal?
I mean, Valen was talking about his Magnus powder. I don't know anything about that, do I?
You probably have heard rumors about it because it is something that is new. So you're also aware of that there have been a few interesting murmurings and tests done on a device that can be held in the hand and it shoots a projectile from an explosion at an incredibly high rate of speed. And the projectile can pierce wood, skin, sometimes dent metal. It's an incredibly powerful device.
Oh, they call it a blicky.
They call it a blicky, yes.
So revised. Sorry. It's 268 cubic inches. Now, we could probably test a few explosive materials, especially if we get our hands on
Where would we test that?
whatever he makes. I don't know. But this seems pretty potent.
I'm curious, Barnacle, what are you doing right now?
I would probably be trying to look around to find maybe a couple more of these metal pieces
Okay.
to maybe collect.
So you're sifting through the debris.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, probably
Okay.
just sifting through debris.
Okay.
I would also be kind of looking over the shoulder, little sketched out, because I don't think we're supposed to be here, but
Yeah.
Why don't you also roll an instinct check for me, if you would be so kind.
You got this.
okay. Not as high this time, but still with hope. 12.
Don't forget to mark your hope.
Hope.
As you're kicking through the debris and kind of looking down, you do notice something on the ground that catches your eye. Something that seems to have, I won't say survived the explosion, but have possibly been dropped there after the explosion, which is kind of interesting. There is a small leather pouch that its only sort of markings from any of this charring seem to be just from contact. They don't seem to have been from the explosion.
Interesting.
But it's laying there on the ground at your feet, just underneath the board, and there's a little bit of debris, but it's a light brown leather. When you pick it up, it's very lightweight. It's very small. When you open it up, and inside you find a very, very small cluster of mushrooms.
Oh,
Shit.
And given your history given your history, you do notice that these are not culinary mushrooms. These are mushrooms of the hallucinatory type.
What'd you find there, Barnacle?
Drugs.
Take
Mushrooms.
it to you to find the
My-
drugs here.
Mushrooms. I found mushrooms. Not the ones you want to cook with.
Have you seen these before? Have you dealt these before?
Yes.
so
What
could-
are they? They go by a number of different names. I'll actually let you, if you want. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I don't have a name for them.
Don't want me on the spot.
They go by a bunch of different names depending on who uses them.
Sycophlex.
Sycophlex? What are you, a pharmaceutical dealer? Have you tried? Ask your doctor about
Oh, they
Sycophlex.
call him Sycophlex.
Have you ever had trouble getting the center out of your pineapple?
cause death.
Try Sycophlex. May cause death and depression.
Right. If you've experienced any of the following: death, family members' death, everyone around you dying.
Are they? What do they do?
What do they do? Great question.
Yeah.
So you would know that these are a highly addictive, transformative hallucinogenic. That sort of the trip that somebody ingesting these would go on is more akin to something like a kind of peyote. So very sort of like a medicine man type spirit journey, rather than just like, whoa man, the colors have sound. This is more like a kind of you would take these to transcend the material plane's existence.
Yeah. Interesting.
very
Why is that here untouched?
Is
Why is that placed here afterwards?
Druid.
Druid.
That's a prime suspect. Prime suspect.
Barnacle.
So
Go to the druid!
starting a profile.
You haven't fried that brain of yours yet.
Maybe if I use these, though.
Maybe not. Maybe wait on that.
Okay. These look like they were here
So-
after the explosion.
These are most certainly popular among druids.
I would assume so.
I wouldn't say these are popular by any respect. These are sort of a highly valued, rare drug that if you were able to get them, you could sell for a decent price, number one. And number two, this is not something that runs rampant around the city like
Right.
Fleece does. This
Well, I'm
is
assuming it comes from outside the city.
that's a fairly decent assumption. Yeah, we're not growing that in Emakora.
Yeah. It seems like it's possibly time to visit our next suspect.
Yes.
We have 3 pieces of evidence that prove possibly the explosion did not come from the lab. It came from the front door in a bomb, possibly from the ruins.
Do you mind if I hold on to those? I have a potential use for them in this investigation.
Use.
Can I insight check that?
I'm wondering first, maybe we should talk about why you might not trust the party member, right? So why you might not trust Knocker. Maybe this didn't require a roll at all,
Okay.
right? Because maybe this is more about the narrative of you two having a conversation, and you, Astor, you remember that Knockrum has this kind of authoritative investigator kind of feel. You know, I'm not saying you shouldn't trust your party members or that you should automatically trust them, right? But maybe this is part of the conversation.
So you're telling us to kind of like...
Maybe work it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you want it, Knocker?
I figured if our lead after this is Galen Shorn, and our profile based on this suggests that whoever owned these might have been a druid, I think if it happened that when I talked to him, I dropped these accidentally, that would either elicit a reaction that would be quite telling, or maybe we can build a sort of connection that way. Maybe he's like, oh, a person who does drugs.
Those are 2 possible outcomes.
Yes.
But there is a 3rd possible outcome.
Where he will holler.
Freak out.
Yes. Well, then,
Can you be ready for that possible outcome?
yes. And I also don't have to accidentally drop these if it would be so evident.
Well, maybe we hold this as some sort of trump card backup
Yes.
if we're not getting information from them.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Good thinking.
Thank you. Now, are you willing to hand them over? I'm going to present a cloth for you to put them in.
I have baggies. I give you half.
Half?
A dime bag.
Of course, any amount. Okay. All right, I'm going to tuck
little
these into my
freak.
inner pocket
Okay.
and clip it back closed.
Okay.
We need to retain evidence, okay?
Yes.
That's
If
good.
we're just gonna drop it all on the ground, then we have nothing.
Okay, you're necessary here, okay? You're necessary, we all get
I
it.
think it's a great move.
I'm just... I don't like seeing you use this